Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Hey, welcome to Breaking Down Bits. I'm Brian Gendron.
I'm Drew Jordan. Man, so good to be plugging through these episodes. The last few, the feedback that I've been getting personally is that people are really connecting with this stuff. We had some amazing guests, and they keep on coming. Even these last two episodes, incredible conversations coming up.
Absolutely, and we're learning along the way. We by no means claim to be experts at comedy, so we're just here to learn from the people who are ahead of us and doing it professionally, and hoping that everybody comes along with us for the ride to learn as well. So Speaking of learning, let's get into callbacks. What did you learn from our last episode with Nori Davis?
And Nori was so fun. If you missed that episode, you got to go back and check it out. For me, the best part was just a reminder to be myself and not worry about what the audience is wanting or thinking or whatever. Just get up there. And when it comes to writing comedy, there's a huge portion of it's just about you doing what you think is funny, and maybe the crowd that connects with that will find you eventually. But don't completely just be thinking about what's this crowd going to think is funny. What do you think is funny? Make it internal.
Absolutely. Yeah, he talked a lot about joy and then bringing joy to the audience and really having that symbiotic connection. And that was absolutely something I took away as well. The one thing that stuck with me was blow it up in your hometown. You know, start and run shows, which you and I are both doing. My show comes back tomorrow night. So excited. Yeah. And we're doing it in a unique way, right? Because we're doing it live, in person, socially distanced, safe and responsible. But we're also adding in multi-camera live streaming too. And we've had several people already go ahead and purchase that. So pressure's on not to screw that up. Well, hopefully it works. I gotta go test it out tonight. But that was the thing. He said, get the show, run the shows in your hometown, build your audience before, moving to New York or LA, which our guest today did. So if you want to go out and find that episode, go ahead. The best place to find all of our past episodes is breakingbits.com. You can get our show on Apple. You can get it on Google Play. You can get the video on YouTube, which is great because you can actually see the performances we look at. And that's where you go to do it, man. So let's introduce our guest. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it. Ron G began his stand-up career in Atlanta, Georgia, and was crowned first-place winner of the 2005 Sierra Mist Late Night Laugh-Off. After moving to Los Angeles to further his career as a comedian and actor, he was a finalist on Bill Bellamy's hit television show, Who Got Jokes, and was also a finalist on NBC's Last Comic Standing. On the acting front, he landed the job as the national spokesperson for Checkers and Rally's restaurants. Ron G performs at clubs, colleges, churches, and corporate events across the country, entertaining people while staying true to his commitment to clean humor.
Ron G, how are you, man?
Oh. Got us.
Gotta make sure he can hear us. Give us just one moment. While we're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and put up his social media handle.
Hey,
there we go.
There we go.
Can you hear us now?
No. Check.
It's up.
Oh no.
So you can get at Ron G at comedian Ron G. That's on Twitter, Instagram. I'm gonna send you a quick note, Ron. We'll get you set up. Don't you worry. You hang tight.
And then you can get into those.
Check. 1, 2.
There you go.
We hear you. You hear us?
I did.
Yeah, Ron G. How are you, man?
Check.
We got you.
Can you hear us, Ron?
Check. You hear me? What about now?
We got you.
I can't hear nobody. Oh man, that's terrible. Check. What about now? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
You hear us?
Y'all, man. Oh, this-
Oh. Can you see that? Can you click that cam mic button?
Oh man, I don't hear anything.
Can you click that button? That cam
Click
mic button?
mic cam button. I did that already.
Yeah. Nothing on your output there.
Camera.
I'm going to pull you out and pull you back in. Let's try it again. And everybody, welcome, Ron G.
Oh man, this is terrible. Y'all having a good time without me, man. It sucks.
Can you hear us now?
No.
I can't hear anything.
Negative. Let me see.
What about now? I took my headphones out.
Can you hear us?
We still hear you.
Oh, jeez. Any more suggestions?
I'm going to have you.
There we go. There we go. I don't
You
know
got
what
us?
happened. I got you.
Hey, we got Ron. G
What's up,
in the
fellas?
house. Hi, doing well,
Man, that was so terrible. How y'all doing, man?
We're good, man. False start, but we're ready to play. Let's
Yeah,
go.
man. I missed all the great conversation y'all had before y'all brought me in the room.
No problem, man. What we do is we go back and we talk about some of our past episodes, our immediate past episode. We had Nori Davis on, and it was terrific. I don't know if you know Nori. He's a New York comic. Yeah. Well, good. Well, thanks for coming in. Where are you at? Are you in LA?
I'm in LA, man. It is, man, dude, the outside looks like a hookah lounge because it's all smoke and you can't see nothing, man. And I don't even live near the fires, but all the clouds came on this side of the hill. It's crazy.
Whew. That's wild. That's wild. I got some friends over there, and I think I got some friends in Boise who even are dealing with that. It's taken over the whole region.
It's crazy, man. We live in a weird time.
Can we call this the end of gender reveal parties? Like, let's just end them.
The last one. It's the last one, man.
Going out in flames.
I feel like balloons and cakes is too much. Like that wasn't enough. Like I set half the earth on fire just to let somebody know you're having a boy. It's crazy.
It's definitely a boy, though, right? I mean,
it had to be a boy. Boys are that reckless. Also, too, if I ever have to get up while we're talking and answer the door, it's probably my neighbor. I got a new neighbor. And this dude is obsessed with the trash chute. Like for some reason, ever since he's been moved in, he'll knock on my door he only waits till I do an interview, and he'll knock on my door and be like, "Hey, can you keep the trash chute closed?" This old gentleman, he loved this trash thing. That's his jam. I don't know what it is, bro. Every day, the last 3 days, he's knocked on my door. He was like, "You know who been using the trash chute? Because it doesn't close all the way." And he'll just ask me, and he doesn't have any periods, just all commas with his conversation. When you gotta double dash try to get out of it, it's crazy. So just give y'all a heads up if I need to go to the door.
Got it.
Just turn the camera so we can watch, because that sounds interesting.
Oh man, I'm just stuck at the door.
I've been trying to find humor. I'm married with kids, and recycling comes only every 2 weeks. And yeah, thanks, man. 6 boxes a day are at my door from Amazon. And I'm just so frustrated. I don't have any place to put all this, and just in that frustration lives jokes, right? Or in your frustration with your neighbor, how do we make trash into funny is the challenge that's presented to us as comics. So
man, it's so weird. I honestly feel like you don't realize how loud your neighborhood is until you get on the Zoom call. Like you never realize. Like I have one neighbor who has sex every day at 11 a.m. through 1 p.m. and it's so loud. Like it's not even like. It's like a loud, like ridiculous. I actually put a video up, and while I was outside, because I was trying to shoot videos, I couldn't shoot. They were still going at it. My other neighbor was like, "Shut up and bite a pillow!" Like it was so funny.
Bite a pillow.
And then the other neighbor, the little boy, I think he hates his mom because he plays with toys on the balcony. He's like, "Mom, clean your room!" And you can hear him like screaming and playing with his toys. And then OG next door, he want me to hear Ted talk about the trash chute every day. Like, man, life is crazy.
Well,
it sounds like you're shooting a sitcom in your apartment complex right now.
Man, it's crazy, man. It is crazy. And I'm waiting on the leaf blower to start going in a minute too.
So maybe we'll get some distractions, but we'll work through it. What we did at your intro, but we'd kind of like to get behind the intro a bit and talk about some of your early breaks, because comics really relate to that. Everybody out here is trying to get found and level up, and tell us about some of your early breaks, how you got in front of that, and how you took advantage of that.
Well, one thing that really changed my life was I did I think you mentioned the late night laugh off. I forgot all about that, man. I was honestly that's when I lived in Atlanta, and I feel like I was unemployed almost the whole time I lived in Atlanta because I used to be an accountant, And I went through what you call the quarter life crisis, where you go to school for something, but your heart tells you something different and you don't know what it is. And I was at this crossroads where I was actually engaged at the time, ready to get married. And where I'm from, I thought that you're supposed to, not supposed to, but you're supposed to take care of your family. But my comedy was a hustle. It wasn't a dream yet, because I had me money. I didn't have we money. You know what I'm saying? To take care of me and somebody else. It was just enough for me as a single man who's living in poverty. Like, I didn't know I was broke. I was just happy doing what I love, making people laugh. And so what happened was, I thought I had to put my dream down to take care of this woman, because I was engaged, because I wasn't making enough money. And I was like, yo, I'm going to have to stop doing comedy. And my buddy was like, man, you can't put your dream down because you're going to be resentful. You should stay with it. And so the late night laugh off thing, I said, hey, God, if you want me to keep doing this thing, let me win this competition. Let me know for sure that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was for the WB network. That was like old school. And I won the thing, man. And so the prize was a trip to Vegas. So a young comic to be able to perform in Vegas was a big deal. And this is like 1 year in the game. And so I won. And I told my fiance at the time that I won, but I was going to take my boy, because my boy was like, yo, don't give your dream up. And he was like the one that encouraged me, like, yo, you should try doing the competition or whatever. And I won. I took my boy. And my girl was like, you're not going to take me? I was like, you going to let me quit something I love doing? You know what I'm saying? And you want to go with me? Anyway, I went to Vegas and had a great time. It was a ball. And that was literally one of like the changing points in my career. Like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. And my first time on stage, they told me to kill myself. And because I did Apollo night, it was a bunch of dope dealers and strippers. And they booed me. Now the boo was okay, but when they told me to kill myself, that's when I was like, yo, this is crazy. But I felt something on the inside, and I'm like, I'm going to be good at this. I don't know how or whatever, but it just started something. And that was the beginning of me like really falling in love with the craft. And I was like, I'm going to figure this thing out. Because I used to watch other older comics who were had more tenure in comedy, but they wasn't funnier than me on the inside. Like, I feel like as a comic, you always say to yourself, especially when you see people that are already on, like, I'm funnier than this person. Even if you know you're not, like, you're going to figure it out. So I remember just falling in love with comedy. And within 8 months, man, I did a show at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is I think it's an Army base in Georgia. And I got my first standing ovation. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do in my life.
That's pretty awesome. I think if I got boozed the very first time, if someone told me to kill myself and booed me the first time I went up, I don't know if I would have come back for round two. I hope I would. Luckily, right. I had a pretty good first experience, but that sounds that at least you know that you're up for the challenge, and I think that means something.
Right, but watch 3 other people before you get booed, then it's your turn. Like, it's scary, man. Like the places used to boo you so bad. I used to be scared at work on Friday for a show on Sunday. Like, my stomach would drop. Like, I'm getting off, and I know on Sunday I got to get on stage and I'm going to get booed by a bunch of strangers. Like, yeah, man, it was a crazy feeling.
Here's what I liked. A very relatable story. One, a lot of comics can relate to being broke and doing what they love. But two, you turn to God and you turn to your friends and people that support you. And it sounds like you had to get out of a relationship with some of the people that are the naysayers, the people that don't support you. And so that's a very interesting time. And then you finally got your validation by winning that contest, which is within a year, man. That's a big deal. You got to be a natural then, right, to be able to get on national television that quickly.
I fell in love with it, man.
Yeah, and that's I think that's why Drew and I are here. We're joke nerds. We're in love with the craft. We love to perform, and that's a great behind the scenes, because a lot of people see the success and the things you've been able to do and win and accomplishments, but it's nice to really be vulnerable like you just were and share with us the real beginnings.
Oh man, I love that term, joke nerds. Y'all should do a spinoff show called Joke Nerds.
Yeah.
Dope.
Well, and what we wanted to do today is talk about clean comedy, right? And there's so much like you do churches. That was in your right, and that scares the hell out of me.
The irony, that's funny.
Yeah. But I mean, clean comedy, the clip we're going to look at later is great because it doesn't necessarily mean it's not about adult topics. It just means that it's clean. It can be performed in all for all ages, basically, right? So I really want to get into that because that opens up way more doors. It opens up corporate, it opens up churches, and those are sometimes the higher paying gigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd love to dive into that and learn more about that goal of yours to be, I guess you're going to stick to being a clean comic and how that's helped you grow as a comic.
Right. Well, I started out being a dirty comedian, man.
We all did.
Right. I didn't know any better. I came up in comedy clubs where I was like, I came up under a bunch of Comedy View comedians, and that's all I saw. You know, my parents, my family cursed, like everybody in my life cursed. I thought that was normal. And right around that time, I started going to this church in Atlanta. And my first time on stage, when I told you I got booed and they told me to kill myself, I was cursing. I remember cursing. But then as I started finding my voice, there was an older comedian named Jerry Farber in Atlanta, man. He was 30 years in when I first got started. So I'm sure he's like almost 40, 50 years in now. But he was like, man, you're a good looking guy. Why you curse so much? And I was like, I don't know. And at the same time, I feel like God was tugging at my heart. And I remember when I got on stage and I went back to the place that booed me and told me to kill myself, and I performed and I rocked it. I finally like conquered the room that was like my thorn, the place that I was nervous at on Friday and I had to go there on Sunday to get booed. I finally conquered it, and I did like 5 minutes, which is good in that environment. And I didn't curse. And I felt like God said, if a pastor did what you did, because I was still cursing off stage, and I feel like I was like, well, if a pastor did what you did and didn't curse in the pulpit, but cursed off stage or in real life, you would judge them. So what make you any different? And it just punched me in my chest. And I realized I naturally stopped cursing around my parents and people I respected. And I just wanted to be a master of, I didn't want anything to be mastered by anything. So I started working on being clean in my personal life. And then ever since then, like, it changed my life. And this is the cool part. In that moment, I didn't know, because if you're used to doing something and you stop doing something, you're like, man, this sucks. But when I booked my Nickelodeon show and I wound up being a dad on a TV show, when my final round, I had an audition with all the producers and stuff. And it was like, you're a clean comedian, huh? And I was like, yeah. And it was like, honestly, you're perfect for this job. And it reminded me like, oh, okay, this is the setup, because at Nickelodeon, they're very funny about their brand. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to like be a dirty comedian and be a dad on Nickelodeon, which is probably possible. But they look at your social media and start taking stuff down, and like, you know, they're very funny about their brand. But I felt like it was like full circle reminder of, this is your calling, this is your lane in life. And if you honor what's in your heart and you stick with it, it'll make sense later on, even though in the moment it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah. I'm not as clean as you are, but I'm a pretty clean, my act is pretty clean. Mm-hmm. And it's very, especially language wise, topical, it may be a little edgy, but language wise, I like keeping it pretty clean as well. But one thing I struggle with, and I wonder how you handle it, what happens when you have that really funny, dirty joke that comes to you when you're in your head or you're writing? What do you do with that content? Because I can't imagine that you just like tuned out all the dirty jokes. Like, it's going to come to you. What do you do when it comes?
Well, I'll say this too, man. I just feel like as a professional comedian, you should learn how to work all rooms, particularly clean. You should at least know how to work clean, even if you're not a clean comedian, because I don't knock anybody that curses. Like, that's everybody else's lane or whatever. And you also need those dynamics in order to be comedy. Comedy's everything. Comedy's dirty, ugly, nice. It's everything. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I have dark thoughts. I think just as a comic, like I battle with depression, you know, often, like just this quarantine, not being able to go to work and all the things that bring me joy, I'm unable to do. So I feel like I'm grieving my old life. I'm grieving the life of being able to perform 3 times a day and work out these thoughts in my head. So now I'm at home trying to create content to get the thoughts out of my head. But for me, I kind of know my filter and I know my lane, and certain things you can't do once you find your voice. To me, comedy is not about being funny. It's about discovery. And the more you work on yourself, the more you can articulate why you feel what you feel, and it makes it easier to translate on stage. So even if there's a dark thought, like I made a comment about battling depression. So I had a joke where I went through a breakup and I was depressed on stage. And I was like, man, you ever like cry so hard you have tears under your neck? You ever break up like, and you have to do the wall slide? You ever cry so hard you gotta slide down the wall? And I'm like, and I did the joke on stage and people were screaming. And for me, I was literally crying doing the joke because I was like, I had a fresh open heartbreak, and I did the joke, and it was so, and like it's one of my biggest jokes. Or when I mentioned the person who I was engaged to, they didn't believe my dream. I came up with one of my biggest jokes called the Dream Snatcher. I was like, how come, ladies, when a man's doing something that you don't understand, why you got to minimize it and make it seem like it ain't nothing? Like, go to the little comedy club and tell your little jokes. Put your little tight shirt on. Grab your little Honda Accord down to the little comedy club and tell your little jokes for the little hoes. You know what I'm saying? I said, why you gotta minimize my stuff? Like, why my stuff gotta be little? You know? But a lot of those moments that bring me pain actually wind up being comedy gold when I step outside myself and get a chance to like heal from whatever I'm dealing with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I feel
I
the same way. Yeah. So I totally, my whole act is just one big, sad, depressed mess of all the hard things I've gone through that I've turned into comedy. But sometimes I come up with, like, when I'm writing, sometimes I write a joke or I'll come up with an idea that I could never tell on stage. Because I'm just
now,
like,
do you feel like that's your lane? Do you feel like that's your lane too? Because I always wonder, comedians who have, I call it the suicide watch comedy. I wonder, like, do you feel like that's your voice or that's like what you're going through? Because sometimes I have to check myself. Like, if I'm going through depression, I'm not my normal self. So I'm talking about dark stuff that's not necessarily my lane. And you have moments like that because you're trying to figure that moment out while you're in it. Is that your lane? And you like the dark, like, because sometimes you can make actually a whole living from that. Like being that guy on camera, like you can make a living from that. Like, is that who you authentically are? Or that's who you like, it just, for you, you know, comics, we can be kind of cynical and you like your relationship sucks. Oh, you're not gonna make it. Your relationship is terrible. What are you doing? She doesn't love you. She love you for right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that your lane, or that's what you think you're? Are you becoming that, or is just a moment where you're trying to find your voice?
Yeah, that's a good distinction. You know, is this authentically where I'm at? Yeah, for me, I think personally, it's just like it's been these things have been like a divorce. I have a stomach disease. I grew up my dad's a Baptist preacher, and I have a lot of fun.
That's all you had to say.
You know, so like,
forget the divorce. As a pastor, you've seen too much.
Yeah. So I use that, all the negative stuff, some that came off negative and I turn it into fun. But I don't really bring like the language into it. I do keep it clean, but sometimes off, you know, when I'm walking around, something will come to mind. I go, oh, that'd probably work on stage, but I don't think with who I am, it really like would fit into my act because it feels like it's too dirty or it just doesn't, it would sound weird coming out of my mouth, even though my brain came up with it. It just doesn't fit who I am on stage and who I am. Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes comedians have to like see who you are as a whole. A lot of times, like, we're in our body, so we don't see how we are. But like, you're a likable, charming guy. So when a woman sees you, like, women gonna look at you like, oh, he's a handsome guy. And then when you start doing dark stuff, they're like, wait,
this guy's messed up. Something's wrong.
Yeah, he got checked. Yeah, he needs some therapy. You know what I'm saysaying? So you have to be mindful. I won't say, I hate the word brand, but be mindful of what you give off, because sometimes it doesn't always translate. Because I've like, it's a rule in comedy. Like, if you're ugly, you can talk about everybody. When you're ugly or you're fat in comedy, you can talk about everybody. It's okay. But if you're a good looking person, you can't call somebody ugly, or you can't. It's an unspoken comedy rule. You know what I'm saying? So if you look a certain way, it doesn't always translate. It's like, you know, somebody with a suit on doing jokes about being broke. It doesn't translate. So you have to be mindful of that, you know. And also ask yourself, is what I'm doing sustainable? Because the goal is to be sustainable in this career and make money. So I want people, for me personally, I want people to feel good, even about my own junk, you know? Yeah. And I know it will affect my money if I'm talking about sad things all the time, because I try to give off light and I try to unpack all my junk. And I go to therapy in my personal life to literally be a student of life so I can be good at this comedy thing.
Sure.
Yeah, and you certainly can't punch down, right? And you got to be cautious of that. If anything, you got to be the butt end of your jokes. And I do some language. When I first started, it was my crutch, right? Because I just needed something. I needed to get some response out of the crowd, and that was my way of doing that. Especially showing up clean cut and then being really dirty, so that kind of flipped it right away.
Take it on them.
Yeah. Yeah. But now we had a guy, Scott Dickers, who's the founding editor of The Onion. He was one of our early guests, and he talks about these funny filters, and he says with shock, which is what, you know, dirty comedy is, use it sparingly. And so that's resonated with me. And how can I go, you know, 5 minutes into my set, clean cut, and then really build up that moment where I can twist it and turn it and be like, oh, this guy's kind of dark. So that's what I'm working on. I don't know, Ron, it's still early. I'm, a year and a half in. Maybe that's not the direction I take it.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the way it seems. I enjoy it now. Kind of being the cynical dad and husband is something I enjoy. So we'll see if that continues to be who I show up on stage as.
Right. What about you, Drew? How long you been in the game?
Just a little over 2 years now, I guess, at this point. So we're both both
awesome.
brand new. We're both babies and stuff. But Houston's been good to us. And before all this pandemic, we were able to get a lot of mics in, a lot of time, great community, a lot of traveling comics coming through that are willing to kind of chat and share. And it's been super beneficial for us.
So the solution for both of you guys, man, is what I've learned, especially if I'm talking about something dark, because even when I do churches, I talk about church people. But what you have to do is, once you give them the backstory and they understand your wife, you notice like all the TV shows you like, and there's a villain. We always fall in love with the villain because once you find out the backstory, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense why the Joker is, what he is. So you know what I'm saying? Like once you find out the why, so up top in your set, you're like, look, man, I'm jacked up. I've been through a lot, fresh off a divorce. Once you say that, you kind of get permission to go the direction you want. But if you don't ever address it and you just start saying this harsh, mean stuff that's dark, people like think you're a dick. You know what I'm saying? If I'm talking about church people, like I'll be like, yo, I was raised in church, man. I grew up around people who would like tell me I need to go to church and make sure I wear a suit. And then, I get cursed out because I got jeans with holes in them. I'm like, you're not supposed to dress like that when you go see Jesus. And I'm like, well, you just drinking on the way to work. Like, what do you know what I'm saying? Like, you cursed me out on the way home. So once you say you're a part of it, or you state you're crazy or why you're crazy, then you can go whatever direction you want because you set them up to, this is who I am, So just make sure. That's one thing I've learned. I'm going to tell you what you need to do, but that's one thing I've learned in comedy. Once you either like include yourself as a part of the thing or let people know what to expect up top, then you can go whatever direction you want. And they'll tell you how far the line is once you're in that space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always this sort of how tight can I make it up in the beginning to get to that laugh really quickly and come out with who I am, at least in a mic, especially in showcases and mics, the stuff that we do now, right? Yeah. Just to make sure that they're on board with you, that they know that you're that and get that permission, like you mentioned, to explore other ideas and areas through that persona. So
my only question is like, again, will it affect your money? Like if you're doing a showcase and you're talking about all dark stuff, like does that affect your money? Like again, sometimes comedians, I like watching comedians who like push the envelope and say the most reckless stuff ever. Like I personally like that, but I'm like, does it affect your money? If you did this in front of executives who are trying to book you for a TV show, would that same thing work? You know what I'm saying? If you have a crowd full of women, which comedy is like 80% women anyway, would that thing work? Even though as a comic, you're like, oh, that's brilliant. But you know what I'm saying? The goal is to be able to go on the road and sustain yourself and make a living from it. So if that stuff isn't working, then what do you do? Like, what's the point? Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it to grow your comedy? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what you talked about earlier. Like, if you had some filthier material from maybe the early days on social media, Nickelodeon saw that. Well, then now that door's shut. You're no longer the perfect character for that show. Yeah, and so you've got to be mindful of that, not just on stage, but also how are you putting yourself out there on the internet. Maybe it's worth a backtrack to go clean up some of that, especially if you're leveling up and maybe thinking about making the jump to bigger markets or something like that. Then that's a good time to go clean up some of that nonsense from the early days, maybe.
Right. I just think the goal is to be as authentic to yourself as possible. Like think about who you want to be seen in the future. And if you had kids, when they saw your set, what would they think of you? So again, whatever direction you go, just think about sustainability and what is your legacy in comedy? What do you want to be known for? Because we all have dark moments, and is that your lane and you want to stay dark? And what kind of audience will follow dark comedy? Or people right now just want to feel good. They just want to laugh and get out the house and get a break from their kids, whatever. So do you provide that? Our job is to fix the world, not fix the world, but analyze the world and remind people that life ain't that bad.
Absolutely. So before we get into breaking down the clip that we're going to look at later, there's a few things we like just to like open-ended, big questions just to start, just very generally speaking, take it any way you want. How does Ron G write comedy?
So I actually had this gift when I was a kid. I always saw in pictures, man. Like I used to be really good at drawing. I got awards for drawing when I was a kid. So I personally always see things in pictures. So my comedy is me having a moment in my life and bringing it to life in an animated thing. Because I can't curse, I have to be very careful with my words. So it's either using the perfect wording or the perfect act out to get the reaction that I want. Like example, when I mention, I'll take a premise. Like the premise will be something rooted in something that really happened in my life, like whatever the premise is. And I'll take that and exaggerate it, because comedy is always like one part of it has to be exaggerated. Example, my first heartbreak. And I was like, man, breakups suck. Like anybody ever had a breakup that changed your life? Like, and fellas, like, this is how you know you really been in love. You ever cry so hard, you have tears under your neck? I ain't talking about the regular, and you can, don't leave me. Don't. And I would like just be as extra as possible. That's just my personal brand. So I start with the premise and I write on stage. I don't write out my set. If I do write anything out, it'll be bullet points, because I never want to like be stuck to words, because a lot of my funny to me is discovered on stage. And sometimes the stuff that's not written is the stuff that people fall in love with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, man, you ever cry so hard you see yourself crying in the mirror, and you cry extra hard looking at you cry because you've never seen you cry before? Like that's a real moment. And I just embellished it. You know what I'm saying? And the act out of, you ever cry so hard you see yourself crying in the mirror and you can't believe you crying like that, and you cry extra hard looking at you cry because you never seen you cry like that before. And I'm on stage like, and I see myself and start crying because I see, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I am. I bring stuff to life and I always see it in my head. So sometimes I don't know something's funny before I even perform it, because if I make myself laugh because I see the visual in my head, I'm like, oh, that's stupid. That's so funny. Like, yo, we going for that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that is one of the more unique answers we've had, that you start with visual, and it's so smart because everybody talks about the more visual you can be, the more relatable it can be to your audience. So if you start with a picture, another comic local to Houston, Rich Williams, he talked about the Cypher Sound show where they have they act out people's bits.
I was on that show. It was, I forgot the name of it. Yeah, but I was on the show.
But so if you run your bits through something like that, or you make like a storyboard, that is a really unique and interesting way to get to some really cool material.
Yeah. And I've always, again, like if I see it in my head, I can make it come to life. Like example, when we had the George Floyd protests in LA, I had a chance to go to like 4 different protests with my lady, right? And so we went to an all black one, which they said on the flyer, we want all black people, like no white people invited. It was freaking hilarious. So all black people had on all black, you know, because a lot of the protests got gentrified, which is freaking hilarious. And so it was all black people, and the protest chants were passionate, and it was like, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And you can just smell the struggle and the shea butter in the air. Like you can just tell, like it was just some beautiful black people. It was like a scene from the Black Panther. That was just straight Wakanda, right? And then I went to Hollywood for a protest, and it was like an all white Black Lives Matter march. And we was walking back to our car, and me and my lady, we took a wrong turn because the police showed up. And I feel like black people, we have the spider senses. Like when your spider senses start tingling, it's time to go home. You're like, oh, police here. I don't feel right. Let me go home. Like white people, y'all don't feel that because y'all don't have the same, fear that we have. And we were on our way walking back to the car, and we turned a curve. We wound up being in the front of a protest on accident. Like literally an entire, like a Pepsi commercial, like a bunch of white people coming toward us, Pepsi's and like the bullhorn. And I was like, I felt like the white people wanted us to be their leader, like on accident. Like, I just wanted to go home. And the guy gave me the bullhorn. He's like, what do we want? And I looked at my wife like, to go home. And he's like, when do we want it? I was like, now? And I was laughing because I was like, yo, protesting white people is different because their passion is different because they don't have the same struggle. Like you can feel the passion of the black people. We go to the white protest, the chants don't sound the same. The white lady was like, Black lives, they matter here. Come on, guys. Black lives, they matter here. One more again. And another white girl yelled out, she's like, Black lives matter. I'm like, am I a T-ball game? What is happening? And this is some of that really came from that moment because it's just when they start chanting Black lives matter, like I just thought, I was like, bro, like I feel like I'm at a T-ball game. And I embellished it. So when I do it on stage now, people are like, yo, that's hilarious. And it all came from some form of truth. But in my head, I saw the visual of some Ned Flanders, like white matter, and doing like this. So that's how I see comedy, man.
So
That's good.
That's a really unique take. He sounds like, that's all written. Are you working bits out right now on our show?
Oh, it's kind of written, but again, like so the funny part is like, because the world changes every day, I had 20 minutes of protest material, but now I can't do it because it's not a thing right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's one of the things that came out of me experiencing real life. And I always suggest comedians too, man. If you're a young comic trying to figure out what do you talk about, go live, man. Go out and live. Go, like you said, get you married, find love.
Get
divorced. Find your habits. Get divorced. Oh, great material in divorce. Come on, man. Breakups? Oh, man. Suicide Watch. That was comedy. Yeah, man. But you got to go live. And again, all these life experiences create a different vantage point for comedy. And comedy is not necessarily about being funny. It's about your point of view. What did you learn about yourself or a person by going through a divorce? Like that nuance, because so many people have gone through that, or at least the heartbreak of it. Like there's so many nuances in that. Like, how did you know it was over? Or when did you know they checked out? You know what I'm saying? What did you do? Like, I'm writing a joke now. I haven't flushed it out yet, but I feel like when men go through breakups, like women, they bounce back fast. Like the same day they get cheated on, they in the gym with a phone to my revenge body. I'm back in the better. I save lives. God is so good. Like you got a whole calf muscle fresh off the breakup. You didn't work out the whole relationship. And I feel like men, we don't have a support system. Like we go through what I call the revenge tour. And that's the theme of the joke. Like men go on a revenge tour and we trying to find ourselves. And you go through a weird phase where you don't want to be by yourself and then you don't want to be around people. You're like, I'm not sitting around this house. I'm about to go out and meet somebody. You go to the club. You're like, I don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying? But the whole joke, I'll find a theme and I'll keep finding all these punches under that one theme and then put it all together where it sounds like a story.
I don't know if we want to get into it right now, but one thing that we're going to see when we do eventually get to your clip in just a minute is that you really sit and live in those act out moments. Like that's one of the things that you do really well. And I mean, and even just through talking, you kind of feel that you kind of go into this zone and you act out and you live out the joke.
Yeah.
And is that something that you just, are those naturally that long just from the beginning? You just have that much stuff you're working out, or is it little bit by bit and it grows? When it comes to like just sitting and creating all that act out material that's so good, how does that come to you?
Again, I'll just start with the premise, and the premise will be based off truth. And if you ever hear my set, you can tell what I'm going through in my real life because I never write about something I don't care about. Like when I was new in the game, I was just trying to find funny stuff, and I was like, oh, I think this is funny. Let me write about it. But now, like, I only write about stuff I care about. So the set that you saw that we're going to talk about later is like, I'm getting married. I got married. I've been married for a year. So what does that look like? And I'll find a premise and then I'll just stay in it. And for me, the journey of even doing act outs is trying to stay in a character as long as possible and then flush it out. Because sometimes when you're in a character, stuff comes out that you don't even know. Like, and then in those moments, that's where the brilliant comes. I feel like I have this theory about, it's like a good basketball player. A good basketball player, once you learn fundamentals, you can add your sauce to it, and that's what makes you special. Like everybody's selling steak, but what's different about your steak? What's the seasoning on your steak that makes it different? So for me, when I'm in an act out, I'll stay in the act out till it's uncomfortable. And then when I'm done with it, I'll cut all the fat and the whole joke will be bam, 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 all punches because I've stayed in the character long enough to work it out. And if you don't stay in it long enough and like literally like not be scared of silence, you can't really see where a joke can go, but everybody's different. Like I do act outs again because I don't curse and I have to be very specific with my words, but I love doing act outs and doing character work because that's a part of my DNA. And I think it might just be a part of being Black too, just growing up around these crazy characters and environments.
Does that make it hard sometimes when you're working out new material? Does it make for some rough bombs when you're just like really out there just exploring the space of a character and don't really know where it's going? That terrifies me to be like that vulnerable on stage trying something new, just going with it. That feels like it's going to end up in one of my all-time best bomb stories.
I don't really bomb anymore. And what I do to prevent that is I'll pad the new jokes with old jokes, and I'll do jokes that I know work, and then I'll pad in that new joke, and I'm like, I'm going to work on this part right here. Like all the stuff I know works, the first 5, I know it works, but this new part, I'm gonna just stay in it. But I've been doing comedy long enough where my ear is so keen where something doesn't work, I'll find a nuance that'll give the character life, and it'll allow me to keep it going. Use the nuance, keep it going, nuance, keep it going, so I can work out the character. Like example, I don't want to talk about it now, but the old black man meeting my lady, and I was like, yo, you gotta, just hearing an old black man mumbling. Like, my uncle did that in real life. He was like, I'm trying to, and I was just, once I know I got that laughter going, that's how you make people like literally throw up laughing. Once you in it, find ways and directions you can go where they don't expect it. Nuance, find that nuance, and then hit them with the punch and get out of it, and you can call it back whenever you want to.
Let's work our way towards the video. So the 2 questions I have for you, kind of generically, and maybe it's been a little while, but how do you prepare for a set, and then what are you doing right before you get on stage?
I used to have a ritual of I had to chew chewing gum. I would pray and all stuff. Now it's like I just try to be as comfortable as possible because I usually don't sit down. I hate sitting down before I perform. It just feels weird. I have to walk around and I have to pace a little bit. And I don't have a defined ritual, but I like getting my energy up before I perform because I feel like this ADD I got, it's amazing on stage, but it's terrible in real life. And I feed off that on stage because I can hear everything. I can hear, and for some reason, my hearing gets great when I'm on stage, but the main thing is to be present because I know you mentioned about, you said you would bomb if you stayed in character for a long time. For me,
yeah, I'd be afraid of it because it's such a scary unknown, that's not my strong suit.
But that's comedy though. Comedy is mastering silence, like being in silence and being okay with it. I feel like as a young comic, my energy was so high because I was compensating for silence. You know what I'm saying? I think how you mentioned with the cursing thing, I was so high energy the whole time that it bothered me. People were like, I love your energy, but they never said I was funny. And I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Like, oh, I love your energy. But they never said I was funny. And I was like, let me write to where if I broke my leg, I would still be funny. And if I couldn't do the act outs, would my words work the same way? So I would, again, be a stickler for the visuals. Like if you say a joke, I was like, I had a joke about living in LA. I was like, yo, it's a lot of Mexican folks here. I'm from the South. We didn't have that. I was like, I've been living in LA so long. I feel like Mexico must be empty. You know what I'm saying? And just that visual of Mexico must be empty. Like that one phrase gives people a visual of, oh, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Once you see the visual in your head, that's funny. So I would really be a stickler for my words. And again, as a young comic, conquering silence, man. Silence is a dope thing. That means they're listening. But we take it as, oh, I'm not funny. No. If they silent while you're doing a bit, or you can hear them like groan or like make these noises, you're like, they're invested because they care about what you're saying. Like people that you just met 5 minutes ago, now they're, laughing, sad, mad, upset, just because you said words,
Yeah, that's the wild part about comedy.
Love it.
Well, do you want to go ahead and start getting into the clip here? Sometimes if you want to give us some background on this, it looks like this clip, where it was shot, when it was shot, what was going on, any interesting story behind the creation of this bit?
Actually, that's my favorite new set because I've been doing single jokes all my career. Now I'm like a year in, I had to convert and like start doing married jokes. And most of the married jokes I've always heard has been like, oh, I hate my wife. I hate coming home, or got to go by the bar before I go home. And I'm like, I don't feel like that about my wife. My wife is actually dope. Like, she's dope and she's my buddy. So how can I bring that stuff to life? And so me realizing, like, I was on set one day and the dude was like, yo, your wife bad, man. I'll get her pregnant tonight. And I was like, wait, I'm on set. Like, he literally said that. And I was like, wait, you the dude, you don't even speak to me. But my wife was on set that day and he said that. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Okay, cool. And I introduced my favorite uncle to my lady, and he was way too excited. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, he was and I was like, I started getting uncomfortable. I was like, oh, this is okay. This is gonna be the rest of my life. This is it. My wife is pretty. Like, this is what it is. So watching all this stuff come to life, again, comedy is the exaggeration of the truth. So a lot of those premises in that thing was like based off of truth, and especially the part about women never marry the man they really want to be with.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of women. I was like, did you like your guy when you met him? She's like, I did at first, like, I wasn't thinking about him. Like, he grew on me. I was like, what? And I heard so many women say that, but I realized as a man, I never dated a girl or committed to a girl who I wasn't crazy about. Like, I never met a girl. I was like, let me see if she'll grow on me. And let me see if she'll like, she's not cute to me, but let me see if she'll like, I never said that. And men don't say that. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, I got something there. And again, my comedy set is an exaggeration of the truth. And all this stuff was like real things that happened. So
you've actually surveyed in your joke writing process. That's interesting.
Yeah, I do that, man. But if you hear my set and a lot of my social media stuff, I'm real big on relationship stuff. And I have a lot of homegirls who ask me for relationship advice. And I'll ask them questions. I always ask questions. And so for you guys, like trying to find material, like, bro, asking your wife is a really good starting point. I'm for real. Like finding out your junk, like my wife, man, the stuff she say to me, I'm like, really? Because you think you a solid guy before you get married or in a relationship? You think you a solid guy. I'm a great decision maker. You know what I'm saying? I handle my business. The bills is paid. I'm good. But then when a woman's in your space, you're like, I am a trash individual. I don't communicate well. I don't communicate well. I never do anything on time. And I need to get my life together. And it's a constant battle. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's just, that's the starting point. The starting point is your truth or the truth of people that's in your space.
Well, let me go ahead and roll the clip, guys.
Most women don't marry the man they really wanted. They marry the man that's convenient. Oh, it's quiet in this church right now. Let me tell you why. When was the last time you heard a man say, she grew on me? Because only women say it. I'd have heard so many women say like, oh my God, when I first met him, he wasn't even my type. He was short, he was going bald. He wasn't even cute at all, but eventually he grew on me. Like that is the rudest thing to say about somebody you care about. And I know you can't laugh because you with the person that grew on you right now. I get it. That is the rudest thing to say about somebody you care about. Nobody want that on their tombstone. Here lies Larry and his family, who he grew on. Nobody want that. Like a wart? That's ugly. That's not. But fellas, let me tell you something. You can't ever say that about your woman. You can't mess her story up. Oh my God. Because she, in her head, y'all got a whole different story of how y'all met. Oh my God, when he met me, he swept me off my feet. He was, whatever. I asked the dude, I was like, yo, so what attracted you to your wife when you first met her? He was like, hey, honestly, player, she was the last one to leave the club. I'm like, whoa! Ow! And the funny part is, men, we're shallow anyway. Fellas, every dude in here, men are the most shallow creatures on the planet. Let me tell you why. Because we live for the approval of our boys. As much as you want your family and your mom to sign up from your girl, you want your boys to be like, yo, that's you? You winning. Like, that's all we want to hear. Every dude in here. I guess some of y'all settled because y'all not replying, but cool. For real, like, that's a thing for us. But fellas, this is the funny part. You ever introduce your girl to your boy and your boy get extra charming out of nowhere? Like, it make everybody uncomfortable. I mean, he extra sexy, like, this your queen right here? Man, she is gorgeous, man. I said, God's still in the blessing business. I'm trying to get me one of those. Man, our hands are soft. What is that, Japanese cherry blossom? Ooh, with a hint of Chanel, classy. I see what you're doing, brother. I'm trying to be where you at. Ooh, look at these toes. These toes look delicious. Hey, if I was you, I'd get her pregnant tonight. I'm like, you don't get away from my fiance and put your shirt back on. What are you doing, you pervert? I'm just saying, brother. Let me get a hug, sis. Come on, sis. Let me get a hug. Get away from my fiance. Move. But fellas, if you want to know your girl's attractive, all you gotta do is introduce her to an old black man. Old black man gonna give you receipts. He gonna tell you what you got in your hand. If you introduce your girl to an old black man and he start mumbling, you won. I was like, hey, this is my fiance. He was like, that's you? Oh, you doing your thing, nephew. I see what you doing. Oh, she doing good, boy. Come on, you gonna give me some of that, you know, some of that. I see what you doing, boy. Good, boy. If that was me, I'll be like, I'm doing my own gas, no brakes. I'm doing that thing, boy. You want me doing your thing, boy? Hey, nice to meet you, young lady. It's a pleasure. Yeah, he told me a lot about you. Cool. I'm doing the thing, boy. You doing your thing, then y'all see you later. All right, you have a good time. What you doing? All right, lady. What you doing? I'm like, I don't know what he just said, but I feel like I won. Because the worst feeling, fellas, is if your boys don't sign off on your girl. That's gonna sit with you for the rest of your life. It's gonna eat you up. You know what I'm saying? Because one time I introduced my boy to this girl I was dating. Like, she was cute to me, but apparently my boy told me she wasn't cute to the rest of the world. But he did it in such a slick way. He hit me with 2 cools. Cause you ever have a man hit you with 2 cools? I was like, yo, this is my girl. He was like, cool. I was like, get to the car, get out of here. Scram. The sun is out. I should have, scram. She was like, sorry, Ron, sorry.
Oh man, I think that's what Drew. Drew, you said cool when you met my wife. So
Cool. Yeah.
Don't do him like that, Drew.
I did not. She's a doctor. He's like,
yeah.
Oh, you won, fam. You won.
well, you got to hear his doctor,
Like a foot doctor or something.
a chiropractor.
Okay.
That is so good. There's so much. To me, it just the act out work is just astounding, and I hope that one day I could be half as good at those act outs. I love the friend that's so relatable. Who hasn't experienced that friend who's like, well, you gotta flirt with my girl here right in front of me. Like, this is
right. He goes from Call of Duty to Call of Booty. Like, man, if you don't like my wife, man, what are you doing? You pervert.
I love that tag with the put your shirt back on.
Put your shirt back on, man. And produce, you got your shirt up in the produce section. It's crazy to watch that joke evolve too, man. Like, it's grown a lot since that moment. I feel like that was the first month of me doing it. And like I said, I'll have a theme and I'll just keep adding punches on that. So all those jokes are like small jokes under a big theme, which is what I normally do when I'm writing.
So for that bit, your guy getting all charming, it starts off with you have a couple of different act outs, a couple different things that this guy does. And then are you working that off stage and on stage? How are you trying out and creating more of these things? Do you just get on stage and it just happens? Or are you thinking about it off stage?
Right on stage. I got the premise again. I was at work and the guy was like, yo, I get her pregnant tonight. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, that's funny. Like, it was in the moment I was kind of pissed, but I was like, okay, all right, she's pretty. I get it. But what I'll do is I'll do that character on stage. And while they're laughing, I'll find out how many how many laughs I can get by just staying in that character. Because some of it might be funny, some of it might not be funny. But as long as I know if I end it with, I get her pregnant tonight, I can go any direction I want. Like, man, your girl, she bad, boy. She look good. She smell good. I looked in them big brown eyes and got lost. You know, she got some toe knuckles. Okay, and she got some nice knees. Ooh, I ain't never nice knees. God has been good to you. I hope he blessed me the same way. And just stay in it. You know what I'm saying? And again, whatever works. When I'm done, cut the fat. Done.
How many you just rattled off like 3 or 4 tags that weren't in there. How many do you think you have for that one bit or explored?
So what I started doing now is I write open-ended jokes. Where I'll write a joke where if I can stay in it longer than the punchline, I'll just do it. Because that's if I feel it. Because if I'm in a good mood, I just keep going. And the joke just becomes ridiculous. It'll start at one thing. Like I had this joke about my best friend being old people baby. Like when people wait till late in life to have kids and the kids want to be grown. Like you'll meet a grown baby. The baby don't even act like a baby. It acts like an adult and come out with a cigarette. Like, all right, nurse, I'll be in the incubator. If you need some, I'll be over here. And can somebody cut this thing off me? And there's some milk and some matches whenever you're done. Like, and I did a joke about how you can tell your parents' age by your field trip food as a kid. Like when I went on the field trip, I had young parents, so they would give me like fun food, like turkey, cheese, peanut butter and jelly. But my best friend, he was the same age. He would have yams, greens. What you doing with a Cornish hen on the field trip? Like, what are you doing? Like, he got okra on the field trip. Like, what's happening? And I gave this whole list, and I would just stay in the joke until like it was ridiculous. Where people like crying, like, because it like every food I mentioned would be a trigger for somebody. Because I would like go back to my childhood. I'm like, man, yeah, the kid had a can of sardines. Like, you got sardines on the field trip? Wait, you got a whole quiche? Like, who does that? You got meatloaf? Why you got a meatloaf? And like, I just keep most ridiculous stuff, you know? Salisbury steak. Oh, who brings Salisbury steak on the field trip? Like, so sometimes if I'm in a good mood, I'll write an open-ended joke and just stay in it, man.
Is that kind of stream of consciousness stuff then? Or are you thinking about some of these on the way to your set?
I got the joke has 3. but I have like 5 I can do. And if I do the 5 and they laughing, I'll just keep going.
Yeah, I see. Okay, keep layering it on. Okay, cool.
Is there something that you did in the past that made you great at that sort of kind of thing? Just thinking on your feet, getting into a character and living it, and just like letting your brain, putting yourself really in that character so that you can come up with those things. What do you do to get good at that?
So when I first started doing comedy and I had a lot of like older comics around me, I would do a joke and they'd be like, man, you left so much meat on the bone. I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, oh, you can say this. And I was like, I can do that? Like, I have permission to like just to stay in it till it's stupid. And so I would just try it. And so now, as a comedian, you don't have the luxury of being just a comedian anymore. You got to be a writer. You have to be an actor. You have to be good at improv. You have to be good at voiceovers, and all that stuff is a part of comedy. So I would work all those muscles. Like in acting, what I learned is the interesting part about my set is my dialogue in between my act outs would be very conversational to draw people in. And then once I do the act out, it'll be ridiculous. And they'll be like, oh my God. So those layers is like acting. Like characters have layers to it. Like you have moments where, if you and I were arguing, you don't start the argument with, don't play with me. You start like, so you're just going to sit on this interview and lie to me? Like you're chuckling right now. You're just going to sit here and lie to me. This is what we're doing. And then you go from that to screaming. Like that's acting. You know what I'm saying? So I would start out, oh, this your queen? Oh, she's gorgeous, man. She's dope. Like I get her pregnant tonight. Like, and then be more animated toward the end. So for me, sometimes I get a chance to flex my acting chops as well, staying in the character as long as possible.
Man, Drew, I want to get on stage right now. I swear. Is there any mic? Is there a noon mic going on somewhere? No.
I'm surprised y'all don't do an online show, man. Y'all got a great following.
Yeah, we do a little bit. Maybe we're about to end the season, so maybe we'll play around with some community type stuff.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and land this plane because we're getting towards the end of our time. Here's what's awesome. This has never happened. Our last sort of segment is called Last Laugh. Mm-hmm. And it's what do you want on your tombstone? Mm-hmm. Now you told us in your set there, you said he grew on me. So is that the answer, or is that your final answer, or do you have something else?
That's so funny. He grew on me. That'd be dope. No, man. I just want people to know that I legit changed the world. Like I want people to see my legacy and what I'm doing because I love this comedy game. I'm a comedy whore. I love the art of comedy. I love punch ups. Actually, when I won my Emmy for like punching up jokes. Like I love comedy. And like, so from punching up, I wrote a whole set for the CNN show. And it's like, that's my passion. But also my passion is relationships and watching people become the best version of themselves. So comedy is adding orange juice to medicine. Like everybody hate medicine, but if you add a little, like you determine how much orange juice you want to give the people so they can handle the medicine. So my legacy would be like just changing lives, man, doing with this craft I do, and so I can go in and out of being deep to being funny, but I'm learning that the more and the older I get. So it's kind of cool, but I wanted to be like, yo, he changed the world. He legit just made the world a better place.
Drew, we don't talk about comedy legacy a lot on the show, Ron. This is a concept that I think a lot of talented comics could really benefit from that are just kind of floating out there, not really finding their place when they have the talent and maybe they just haven't thought it through to the end, and look at a bigger picture. And so that's really great advice.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about, you being a father, man. Like when your kids see your set, what would they say about you? You know what I'm saying? Like, cause they know you. It's almost like being a preacher kid. You see the preacher present this, and then at home, you like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? I want my comedy to be the most authentic version of myself. So that's one thing. That's why I said, if you're a student of life, your comedy should reflect who you really are. And like the closer you are to that, I believe what makes you dope. Because if you look at all our greats from George Carlin to Richard Pryor to like everybody we love in comedy, they were the most authentic version of themselves. Patrice O'Neal, like just the most authentic version of themselves. And that's the goal. So when you work on yourself, you become a better comic. So you can't run from it. But if you want to be stuck and just be funny, that's cool. But if you want to change this world, like just watching what Patrice like doing a sexual harassment joke and making it funny.
Yes.
Bro, come on. Like to me, I just think it's brilliant, man. And
absolutely.
So we're talking about him now. He's not here. So that's what legacy is to me.
Dang.
That's a great point to think about. Yeah. Sometimes maybe we get a little too focused on the short term and we're like, yeah, I'm going to tell this, take the joke this way or write some kind of hack material that does work in a room. And so you kind of just go with it. And then, but yeah, if you think about your legacy and you think about, okay, what do I really want to be creating long term? Who do I want to be on stage long term? Then you might think differently about what you put on stage, what you don't.
Right. It's definitely overwhelming. Like just trying to think about what your legacy is like that's a long conversation. But at the same time, like you said, when you're trying to find your voice, what's sustainable? What is like in your relationship or your marriage? Like what's sustainable? You got to think about in this world we live in, what can you do that's sustainable that, if you, let's just say you started out doing a character and the character's cool and it's super funny. Everybody love it. Would you want to be that character your entire career? Because they will only love your character and not love you. And then if you got on a TV show, they want to see you as that character and you can't be yourself. So is it sustainable?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the story of Andrew Dice Clay, right? It was like that was just a character, and it kind of became his entire persona.
Right, and he can't not do it. You can't eat.
Yeah.
But if you get hired to do a TV show, you want to get hired being yourself. So the faster you find yourself, the clearer you are on stage, and then like that's your brand, that's your TV show. Am I the grumpy guy? Am I the grumpy white guy who went through a divorce? Like, am I that guy? Or I'm like the guy who like is trying to just figure it out. I keep messing up. Every time I do things right, they fall apart. Like, is that your lane? Like, there's money attached to all that,
Yeah. No, I love that thought of like, who am I? What's the baseline of my personality, my character, what I'm doing? And I think if we can, I'd love to be able to write more and more jokes that support that and build that character of who I am.
Right. Sure. I'm the cool guy who can't get a break. That's me. That's been my comedy through line. Like, cool guy, but like, you had a breakup? Like, you're the cool guy. How you get like, it happens.
Yeah.
You don't look like you've been through breakups. Like, yes, I have a lot.
Well, listen, Ron, congratulations to all your success. Congratulations on the Emmy. That's incredible. Thank you for joining us. Is there anything that you have coming up or you want to plug where people can get at you before we go?
Man. I can do it now?
Yeah, sure. Please.
All right, dope, man. So please follow me on Instagram, comedian Ron G, comedian RONG. In my bio, all my links are on there, my YouTube and everything else. But on Thursday nights, I do a really dope game show called Couples Couch. Would love to have you on. We're basically just a dope trivia game show for couples. I want to do something with grown and sexy people. And then on Sunday, I do Virtual Chocolate Sundays, which is the dope Chocolate Sunday show, the longest running, most diverse comedy show in the nation. I think over 20 years now. We used to do it at the Laugh Factory. Now we do it on Zoom. It's like well over 200 people every week with a DJ. Super fun. I also got a podcast myself called the Two Piece Podcast. One of my passions is personal growth for men. And I want men to be better. I feel like men, we chase the dream, but we don't chase the things that help us sustain the dream once we get it. And I always say that women is the cheat sheet for a man's heart, where you find out why men do what they do. So it's comedy, and it's also, some grown folk conversation as well. And I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me, and I'm flattered to even be on your show.
Thank you, Ron.
Dude, thank you.
That's incredible.
So good.
All right, we'll let you go, Ron. Thanks for joining. And next week, Drew, we're going to have Mr. John Reap. That's September 18th. It's noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
Season finale. The last one of season one. Season one has been awesome. We have gotten guests that I never would have thought we would have been able to get into this show. We've had some amazing conversations and get to wrap up season one. John Reap next Friday.
It's been a lot of fun, Drew. We'll close this thing out. Listen, look forward to next week and wrapping up season one. This has been Breaking Down Bits.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow @Breaking Down Bits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.